We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Marlins fans, will they ever come?
Alrighty, Fish on First presented to you by Burger and Hicks. Make sure to go check them out at, I believe, burgerandhicks.com. Get a free consultation. We are back. Marlins Braves, big division series for the Fish as they're coming off of a series split against the Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Kevin Barral. I'm here with intern Nate and Nick, and we have a special guest, John Rodriguez. John, what's up? Excited to have you back on.
Nice to be back. I was here a couple of weeks ago for a previous series, so it's nice to kick it off and see how these Marlins are doing ever since I was last on, which, yikes.
Yeah, definitely been a minute, but things are starting to look better for the Fish.
Yep.
Split against the Cubs. Nick, what were your thoughts on this series overall for the Marlins? Really had the chance to take 3 out of 4 here, but, bullpen issues once again happened in that second game of the doubleheader where they blew it.
I mean, it's a step in the right direction. They got a series that they didn't lose, so that's obviously a big step in the right direction. Going in there, getting a job done versus a Cubs team that's decently built. So it's a good job getting a win. Obviously, Jesus Sanchez that's a really good sign. He played really good, had 2 two-hit games. So that was a great sign in that aspect. So an overall good series, there was some good things to look at with Luzardo too. Luzardo had a relatively decent start, so that's another thing that we can kind of build on. And then obviously Puck, I almost don't want to talk about again with that. But I really think it was a good series and a step in the right direction to hopefully move on. Obviously, it's going to get tougher now with the Braves, but a good series for them.
Nate, talk to us a little bit about the pitching. Once again, it looks really good in this series, at least 3 out of those 4 games. And the unsung hero, Rodri Munoz, gives the Marlins 5 strong innings of 7 strikeouts. What you like about what you saw from Mr. Rodri Munoz, and then again, good starts from Edward Cabrera, and Jesus Luzardo puts up his best start of the season.
Yeah, again, a step in the right direction, especially from a guy like Munoz. I mean, brought him up from AAA. Mixes pitches very well, especially through that tough Cubs lineup. Liked a lot. We'll get to him later, but I liked what I saw from him. And Cabrera, too. Lewis put out a few tweets about him and his mixing his pitch really well and using different pitches to keep hitters off balance. That's what I saw from him a lot. And, of course, Luzardo getting back to the ace that the Marlins needed to be. So very encouraging again. Puck, not so much, but everyone else doing well.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about Puck. John, take us what you like about the offense. Definitely, still doesn't look like the one we remember from last year, but from what we saw this first couple of weeks, definitely a better step in the right direction, kind of like what Nate mentioned with the pitching. But I think we need to focus in on Brian De La Cruz, what he did. Single-handedly won that first game, that first game with a doubleheader for the Marlins with, I believe, the sac fly and then that home run. And then what Jesus Sanchez did, the 460-foot homer. That
Absolute
game,
bomb.
An RBI in that game. So definitely a good step in the right direction for this Marlins offense.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think the topic of the series is a step in the right direction. It's literally what it is. Pitching, offense, just everywhere. You're starting to see a tick, and like an upbeat tick that the Marlins are actually finding some life. The offense, regardless of the games that they've lost, they've started to connect the ball a little better. They're getting man on base, and hey, Brian De La Cruz, he's got the clutch factor as of right now. So he's really been the backbone of that offense right now.
And
go ahead. Go for
the moment
it.
that stuck out to me during one of these games was the final game where Jazz was 3-0. It was first and second. I think it was the 5th or something around there. And it was 3-0 against Drew Smyly, so a lefty. And swung 3-0, got jammed, but did land for a hit, which I thought was just very encouraging, though, the confidence to at least swing 3-0. He didn't hit it good, but it eventually did land. So that was just a good sign of confidence that he's willing to swing 3-0. He's allowed to swing 3-0, and it's against lefty too. So I thought that was just a nice little boost of confidence and just another step in the right direction of being confident in that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about this bullpen. I know they had that little mess up in that second game of the doubleheader, but really yesterday was, as good as you could get the bullpen, only giving up one hit. It was, I believe, Brian Hoeing giving up that hit, but still, he's looked phenomenal this year. Followed up with, I believe it was Nardi, Fauché. You have Tanner Scott in there to close it out. Nate, what have you liked to, what's been, what have been your thoughts on the bullpen this series specifically? And how do you think that sets them up for what is arguably going to be the toughest series against a red-hot Braves team?
Yeah, guys stepping up. You mentioned Fauché. Still he's thrown 4 games now. 0 ERA. Like I talked from him a lot, especially yesterday. Nardi kind of figuring out a little bit better. And the biggest thing to me yesterday was Tanner Scott. His saves this year have been very, very roller coaster like. Giving up some hits, watching guys, some bad luck. Yesterday, no stress at all. And like you said, for this series, the bullpens didn't need to hold things down, especially with how things ended last series. So it's definitely, again, a step in the right direction.
And also that bullpen, I was just looking at it, they had 4 walks the entire series, the whole bullpen combined. So that's been another issue this series. Tanner Scott's had games where he has 3 walks in a single game. So I think really that limiting walks, the whole pitching staff in general was pretty decent at limiting walks, which is a big step.
Yep, for sure. Alrighty, so we'll kind of talk about what we, a couple of the roster moves last time with, AJ Puk going on the IL. I believe it was a shoulder inflammation. This comes a day after his blow-up start in Chicago. John, what have been your overall thoughts of the AJ Puk experiment as a starter? Shoulder fatigue, I'm sorry. AJ Puk experiment. But, all in all, this kind of feels like one of those phantom IL stints where, the guy's struggling, so you put him on the IL. Obviously, there's reason to think there is some sort of injury, but a phantom IL is a good way to put it. Gives him some time to rest up, go get a couple rehab starts in AAA. But do you think the experiment should be over for AJ Puk? I mean, we're seeing lower velos at times. He doesn't look like the guy we saw in spring training. And you're muted.
Yeah, so it works for some people. There's some guys that come in relief that you could throw out on there, and they excel at their job, but it doesn't work for all. I think AJ Puk is a factor of which it's not working for him. I know the A's tried to do it with him before he came over to Miami, but I don't know. I feel like Puck just really needs to go back to that bullpen. And I like what you said about the phantom IL. I feel like baseball is also a mental sport. So aside from him, missing some time, kind of, adjust and really think about his performances, and hopefully with those rehab starts, he kicks it up again, and hopefully in the bullpen next time around. So I do think that the starting AJ Puck idea, I feel like it's an experiment of the past. I feel like you kind of have to move on. If this Munoz guy continues to go out there and absolutely shove like he did last start, I mean, it's a small sample, but you got a little option there that you could work with. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Nate, anything you guys want to add about this AJ Puck experiment? Now we have some time to reflect on it as these 15 days go by.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest things that I'm turning away from wanting to see him start again is the walks. He's been walking about a batter an inning, which in the bullpen, okay, maybe you can survive that. But when you're a starting pitcher, you're just playing with fire. If you're going to walk somebody every single inning, you're just keeping movement on the base paths, you're going to start running into trouble. The more you put people on base, the more opportunities they're going to get with runners in scoring position. So just the amount of walks he's giving, it just doesn't seem reasonable to keep putting him out there and hoping he's going to go 6 innings. Right now, it's 6 more walks, where it's just not really a reasonable thing. Maybe this IL stint, maybe he could figure something out a little bit. Maybe his shoulder's been bugging him the whole year, and this was a little like, hey, go recover. So hopefully that can maybe fix it. But I feel like maybe give him 1 or 2 more starts when he comes back, see how he looks. But it might just be time to ship him back to the bullpen.
Nate, anything on your end?
Yeah, I like what John said about it being mental. He had a great spring, but then that first start against Pittsburgh, you could kind of see in the first inning like he was all over the place, didn't really have that starter's edge that he might have once had or that he showed in spring. But hopefully this IL stint gets him right and maybe give him 1 or 2 more shots. And if it doesn't, I think definitely give Munoz another shot.
Yep, for sure. Let's go to AAA real quick and talk about Max Meyer. He made that start over there. Goes 3 innings, gives up 2 runs, 2 earned. I believe he struck out 5 or 6. What do you guys like about the start? I don't know how much you guys were able to watch, but evidently highlights were out there. And I mean, does it kind of go to show that maybe having Max in the major leagues was the right decision to have, even though if it was for 3 innings, you could have someone piggyback like a Brian Hoeing who's shown he could go multiple innings, or even, again, the Roderick Munoz. I mean, what do you guys think of that? Whoever wants to go.
I think it's weird with the Max Meyer situation because I think he obviously is an MLB pitcher and he can be capable of that, and you want to be careful of his arm. But I think there's that certain aspect. I know it was a big controversy, him getting sent down. I know you guys have talked about it, but you want to see him progress through and not hurt his arm. Obviously, early, like Yuri went down. That's just something that happens. But I think Max, we want to see him in the majors again this year, hopefully. If that's a bullpen role, if that's a starting role, I would love to see him start because I think he can be an eligible and a good starter for the Marlins this year. But I just don't know if they're going to be willing to drop one of those starters out.
Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with, kind of saving him up and trying to rest his arm, trying to avoid another injury, which the Marlins have been plagued, unfortunately, on the rotation. But yeah, he is a capable pitcher of performing in the major league level. His pitches are absolutely nasty. I think he's able to face any opponent, and he's able to show some absolute filth and, get this team back on the winning column.
Yep, for sure. Alrighty, let's go quickly through some of the injury reports that we have for this series. A couple of notable ones, including, I believe, Jake Berger is on there, and that Mr. Christian Betancourt has rejoined the team in Atlanta. So let's quickly pull this up as we look through, I guess, this injury report. Thought we were going to get a little bit more. Honestly, I thought at least we are going to get some more out of it. But Nate, what stands out to you about Christina Di Nicola and the injury report?
Having Betancourt bat for sure. Hopefully he can get the bat going. He did have 3 hits down in Jacksonville. Anything to really get that offense going at that position. Something else that I'd like to see. Sandy Uri progressing, and then obviously having Berger back against the powerful Braves lineup. You got to keep the offense up to compete with those guys. But mostly Betancourt, I'm hoping to see something out of him. Still kind of waiting for it, obviously, but hopefully get it going this series.
Yeah, I mean, always good to see their Yuri kind of coming back, and Nick, Sandy, finally throwing again. I believe this is the second reported time he's going to throw. I know they said he was going to play some toss over in Wrigley, but I guess what would you take away from finally seeing some more ramp up with Sandy?
I mean, it's just fantastic to see. Obviously, you want him to start throwing and start progressing. I know, obviously, Tommy John, it's always a lot of time. But with Sandy, you just want to hope he takes it. You almost want to hope he takes it slow, honestly, with how this Marlins season is going anyway. You hope he takes it slow. You hope he progresses that arm perfectly and comes back fully healthy so that probably next year he can come in and be that Cy Young pitcher that we're used to seeing. So that's what I'm really excited about, actually seeing him be able to throw. Hopefully it feels great. I know it doesn't really say it there, but hopefully it felt really good for him. Hopefully there's no pain, anything like that, so he can come back just that 100% Sandy that we know.
All the way at the bottom there, John, you see Braxton Garrett, bullpen again, yesterday. Great to see him finally kind of ramping it up again. Hopefully make a couple more rehab starts. They need him, man. They really do need him. They have an open rotation spot right now after sending down Max. How big is this for the Marlins? And, hopefully, I guess, how much of a help is this going to be for a team that, had him and Jesus Luzardo both throw a career high in innings last season? They need someone like a Braxton Garrett back.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, Garrett last year absolutely killed it. He pitched probably to his best. I think overall in the rotation, excluding Sandy, he was probably the best one out there. Having him back on the rotation, he's going to be just what the Marlins need. I mean, at this point, you have to get all the starting pitching you could get. With no Sandy this year, Yuri, you need Garrett back. And another small note is that Shagwa, I believe, had a rehab appearance last game, and I think he threw a
Yesterday.
clean inning. So also refreshing to see. That's another thing. You got to add as much to your bullpen. We spoke about the little mistakes that the bullpen has been having, and to get Shagwal back on there, that's another add, another piece you could work with, and another arm on that pen.
And then I guess the big one is Jake Berger. I believe this means he's going to get evaluated to start hitting. Nick, this is a guy who started off the season scorching hot for the Marlins. I believe he had an RBI in almost every single game he played in this year, besides obviously the one where they got shut out. How big is it, to have someone like a Jake Berger back who, when you bring him back and you bringing him with a scorching hot Brian De La Cruz, a Jesus Sanchez who's kind of getting it going, a Jazz Chisholm who's seeing the ball a little bit better, Tim Anderson who had a very nice series against Chicago. I mean, finally starting seeing these pieces kind of coming back together with Braxton, with Jake Berger. I mean, just to have that.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. I mean, he still leads the team in RBIs, and he hasn't played since in about 8 days or something. So there's obviously still that production there that they're missing, and just this overall injury report, having some guys come back, like you just said, Edward coming back. Now Braxton kind of slowly making his way back. It's starting to look like, and they just had a good series versus the Cubs. It's starting to look like, hey, this team is going to start rolling and start getting some wins. And obviously it's been a really bad start to the year. This would be the time to start going. Now you get the reinforcements coming. Now you get Berger back. He can lock down that third base. Now you get Garrett to start throwing some innings. It's just slowly progressing to, hey, this team might start looking good come the end of the year. And it might be, hey, by the end of the year, wow, this team actually had a decent record when you look at the end of the year. So I think it's just a slow progression of steps in the right direction. I said it 5 times already this stream, but I think it's just these past couple of days have just been positive vibes kind of for the Marlins in ways of just things are just going the right way.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the catching situation. Nick Fortes yesterday had himself a very good game, probably his best of the season. John, did you notice anything differently from Nick Fortes yesterday? I believe he had that double, may have also driven in a run, and again caught Edward Cabrera, and he has looked very good in his 2 games.
Yeah, his approach on the swing has been very good as well. Very aggressive. I think that's something that the catchers in general have pretty much lacked since the start of the season. So it's refreshing to see Fortes swing the bat and bring in some runs. And yes, you did mention catching Cabrera, which has been a plus because Cabrera has been pretty stellar lately since coming up. So really nice to see Fortes kind of show us some good vibes, I guess, for now. And I guess the hope right now would be that Bethancourt is able to adjust to the playing level and swing the bat a bit too. I feel like that's essentially what he's missing. But yeah, Fortes, great to see.
Let's talk a little bit about Edward Cabrera. We weren't able to do too much of that on the Spaces yesterday, but I think it's only fair that we do it now on this live stream. Guys, I mean, Edwards in his 2 starts, he's been really freaking good for the Marlins. Has, shuts out the Giants in that first start, comes into Chicago, gives up. Really, it was a very unlucky sequence. I believe it was 3 bloopers of like 70 miles per hour or less. Nick or Nate, what have you guys liked about Edward, through those first 2 starts? And what are you hoping to get out of him? I believe he's starting on Friday against the Nationals, I want to say.
I mean, he looks sharp. He looks really good coming out of here. He's throwing dots. We're watching him right now. It's a lot of things around the corner, getting guys to strike out. I think one of the biggest parts, one that he's striking a lot of guys out, because we've known he always has the stuff. He's always had the stuff. He's always been able to throw it hard. Just that location has always been the killer for him. And 4 walks in 2 games, 4 walks in 11 innings for him, that's fantastic. That's the best thing you could ever see, because he's a guy that we know walks guys religiously. So 17 strikeouts to 4 walks, that's a giant number for him, and I think that's a huge benefit, and just is now putting the Marlins in that much better of a position with him coming back and him being a high-level pitcher that we know he can be if he's able to locate pitches.
For sure. Nate, anything else you want to add? I mean, Edward has been using that fastball less. We saw that tweet today from Eli, really going change-up curveball a lot more, using those to really set up those put-out pitches. What have you liked from Edward's arsenal, specifically his pitch selection?
Exactly like you mentioned, doing the changeup fastballs. I mean, we know how fast his changeup can go, especially, but just mixing those pitches and also mixing in a slider, keeping hitters extremely off balance. And it's better for him because like exactly like Nick mentioned, the problem with Edward since he's been up in 2021 has been his command. If he can just locate those 3 pitches specifically, he's going to continue to dominate, and I love what I've been seeing from him so far.
Let's also talk a little bit about Jesus Luzardo. Goes out there to Wrigley Field and puts up what was his best start of the season. John, to have someone like Luzardo who struggled in those first couple of starts, not really struggled, but really it was a lot of home runs for the most part for someone like Luzardo. Bad pitch location, a lot of middle stuff, but finally gets it going against the Cubs, and he was in line for the loss until Brian De La Cruz kind of bailed him out. But what you like from what you saw there from Jesus Luzardo, and did you see maybe anything differently from those first couple of starts compared to this one in Wrigley?
Well, first and foremost, you mentioned it. That was his best start of the season, and I think what you're looking for from Luzardo is the longevity. I think that was a little issue that the Marlins had starting the season, where pitchers weren't going farther than 6 innings or 5 innings. So seeing Luzardo reach that 6 inning mark, I guess, is a nice breath, nice breath of fresh air. So, I mean, he racked up some strikeouts too, and I feel like, I mean, doing so, he's been pretty locked in now recently, and his pitches have been nasty. His command has been pretty solid. A couple walks though. I guess I think it was against the Cubs. I think he had like 3. So overall, nice, good to see Luzardo stay in the game a little longer. I think you want to see him do that again next time. Maybe throw another 6, and yeah, step in the right direction.
Nick or Nate, anything you guys want to add there to what John said?
No, it's definitely really solid to see Luzardo actually have a good outing, because he really hasn't this year. It's been by far his best outing. It's hard to remember a really good outing from Luzardo this year. I mean, first game of the year, he was okay. He was decent, but today was an outing that felt that he was Jesus Luzardo, the one that we saw last year, the one that we expected. Hey, this is going to be our opening day starter. This is a top pitcher for the Marlins. I know, obviously, the injuries, but this is a top pitcher on the team he's a trade option that we've said that would get a big thing back. And it's like, whoa, why is he not good at all this year? So I think this was a huge thing to be able to see him go out there and perform like we know he can.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And also,
go for it.
Yeah, also just him. Yeah, him using the slider to lefty that can throw 97, obviously. But you've seen a lot of these clips. He's dropping the slider in very well, keeping hitters off balance. I like that a lot. That really stood out for me. And just Luzardo, really competitive guy, and him just channeling that, especially in the big game, must win against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. I like what I saw from him, definitely.
Alrighty, so we don't have a flip fish today, so we're just gonna kind of do what we did last time. It was just us. We're gonna name, or each of us are gonna go by and name one player. We'll start with John and go down to Nick, Nate, and I'll finish it off. Isaac's flip fish today was a Florida Marlins player. You guys could do a Florida Marlins player, or you could do a Miami Marlins player, just to vary it out a little bit. John, you could think of an obscure one, and then you could do, a normal one out here. So who is your Marlin and Braves flip fish?
Ooh, let's go with Omar Infante. Omar Infante, Braves legend, Marlins legend as well. I think he was the replacement for Dan Uggla coming into the 2011 season. And he was the Marlins second baseman from 2011 to 2012 before the team shipped him off to Detroit, where he rejoined with the Tigers. But a memory I have from Omar Infante is that home run against the Houston Astros. I believe it was the first official Marlins home run at the brand new ballpark. And I also witnessed a walk-off homer against Craig Kimbrell and the Braves. So little connection there. You got the Braves again into the mix. So definitely Omar Infante.
Alrighty, Mr. Nick.
I'm going to go with kind of a cheat code of a person for all these flip fishes and anything, because this guy's played for almost half the league. I'm going to go with Cameron Maybin.
Oh. There we go. Alrighty, Mr. Nate.
I'm going to go with someone I tweeted under – yeah, I tweeted him under Isaac's tweet. Chris Johnson, who done when Jose hit his first homer, Jose pimped it, and then he got into it with Jose third, and then he was on the 2016 Marlins team, and it was nice. It was good to see the little character development. I like that a lot. So Chris Johnson, I got.
That's the beauty of baseball. It really is.
I So I didn't read Isaac's tweet the first time around, and I put the guy I'm going to mention now. So, but I did originally put Brad Hand for Isaac's tweet. I'm going to go with my boy Luke Williams, who was on the Braves. He did play for them last year. He almost got a ring because he could have gotten a ring from the Dodgers or the Braves. So he was in a pretty good spot, but unfortunately, you know what happened. Neither of those teams made the World Series. But all right, we're going to go into the break. Again, Fish on First, presented to you by Burger and Hicks. We're going to play their ad. And after that, we're going to preview the Marlins and Braves series, talking about the starting pitching matchups, the potential Wednesday starter, who could that be, and as well as the lineups. Here we go.
We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Alrighty. Fish on First, presented to you by Burger and Hicks. Make sure to check them out there, I believe, on almost every social media you can think of, Instagram, TikTok. You could also check out their website. So if you've been injured and as a result of somebody else's negligence, make sure to go check them out. Alrighty. Marlins Braves 3-game set. The Marlins were 1 pitch away from taking 2 out of 3 against the Braves last time in Lone Depot Park. But since then, the Braves swept the Houston Astros and took 2 out of 3 against the reigning World Series champion Texas Rangers. Nick, what are you looking forward in this series against what is arguably one of the best teams in baseball?
Yeah, so it's the big thing of going there. We did relatively well when they came to Miami. It was a good series for the Marlins, I think. It was, like you just said, they were 1 pitch away from winning 2 out of 3. So it was a very good series, and like you just said again, it's one of the best teams in baseball, and they're even hot right now. So it's going to be a really tough series for the Marlins if they're not able to hit, if these guys aren't able to go through, if Jesus Sanchez can't keep up his hot streak a little bit, if De La Cruz can't keep that up a little bit, if Arise can't stay on base. It could be a tough series for the Marlins, but they're going to have to go out there. They're going to have to score runs early, play smart. So it should be a fun series. I think if they're able to score some runs early, they can compete, but it's going to be a tough challenge for sure.
Definitely going to be a tough challenge. Let's talk quickly about what the Braves have, what's changed about this Atlanta Braves team. And one of them is arguably the biggest one, Ozzie Albies, who suffered a fractured toe, I want to say. He is out for this series. Sean Murphy once again out, but when you have someone like Travis d'Arnaud who hit 4 home runs in a span of like 2 days, it's really tough to say, they lost too much there. But Nate, take us through some of the, how couple of these Braves changes. Albies, you're seeing David Fletcher enter there, and talk about their starting pitcher tonight, Bryce Elder, who I think is making his first start this season for Atlanta.
Yeah, David Fletcher, not as good as Albies offensively, of course, but a very good defensive second baseman. Of course, you got Marcell Ozuna, who's red hot. Arguably the hottest hitter in baseball right now is Marcell Ozuna. Had a great series. And of course, the usual suspects, Acuna, Riley, and Olsen. Those guys, obviously, especially at Truist Park, control the Marlins. And you mentioned Bryce Elder. I don't really know a lot about Bryce Elder. I know he's definitely faced the Marlins before, but career 3.6 ERA. So definitely something that the Marlins are going to want to look out for. And something I'm looking forward to is just we mentioned steps in the right direction, but seeing these guys like Arise and DLC and Jazz just keep doing what they're doing, and hopefully the whole team can get hot around them.
Bryce Elder faced the Marlins last season. He went 5 1/3, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, and the Marlins actually hit 3 home runs off of Bryce Elder. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's just me jinxing it down. But then he did go up against the Marlins in the following start and went 7 shutout innings, striking out 6 and only giving up 3 hits. So different results for Mr. Elder. Let's take a look at this Braves lineup, John. Nate already mentioned how good Marcell Ozuna has been. Just talk to us about the rest of this line. This is a very, very good Braves lineup.
Just looking at it, it's red everywhere, right? It's terrifying. Matt Olson in that mix. He had a pretty weak series against the Marlins when both teams squared off. Man, when you see the names Acuna, Riley, Olson, it's a yikes. It really is a yikes. I think the true test there is going to be what the pitching is going to do and how they're going to fare against these batters. You know, Ryan Weathers. That's the guy I'm really looking forward to tonight. Like if he's able to really put some mixes on those pitches and continue what he's been doing and keep these Braves hitters in check, hey, the Marlins got a chance. But overall, it's a tough one.
And I think the one tough thing about this lineup that, especially with how the Marlins rotation is right now, we're going to go 3 lefties, probably back to back, starting these games with Rogers and Braxton Garrett. And there's a lot of good righties. And obviously, Albie's coming out, throws off their mix a little bit. If we bring in some righties from the bullpen, Fletcher coming in as a right-handed bat, makes it a little different. Albie's obviously gives that one centerpiece switch hitter right in the middle there. So that throws off their kind of how they like to build their lineup, because he's always been the center of the lineup the past couple of years, just him and Acuna right up there at the top. But just this lineup is loaded with righties, and especially us the Marlins throwing lefties. It's going to be a really tough series for the Marlins pitching if they're not able to locate, if they're not able to use their breaking pitches good. Because this team's going to hit the ball hard. You know that for sure. All these guys hit it extremely hard, and they can hit it far too. So you got to be careful with their pitches.
Nate, Ronald Acuna Jr., when he faced the Marlins last time around, he was struggling a little bit. And not to say that it's been the same case, because he's definitely still, he's in every single game he's played since, he's had a hit in except one, which was that first game against the Texas Rangers. But he's kind of still struggling, not really driving in guys as much as you would think. Only one RBI, which was a home run. What are you seeing from Ronald Acuna that maybe could lead to less run production, at least? Definitely the bottom of the order is still a productive one for the Braves, but not as good as what we've seen in past years.
Yeah, I watched one game of that series. Maybe trying to do too much for him, kind of getting outside of, what he's trying to do. But like Nick mentioned, facing a lot of lefties this series, so hopefully he doesn't get back on track this series, but maybe him just trying to, go work the opposite field and more right center. But if he's facing guys like, Weathers and Rogers, that can get him back on track, but hopefully not.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at the Miami Marlins lineup. It has obviously kind of the same one as we've seen before. Luis Arraez is in there. Brian De La Cruz. I believe Jazz moves up a spot in that lineup. John, take us through what you like about this Marlins lineup. That bottom of the order is still not really getting it going, but it was good to see Nick Fortes get it going a little bit against the Cubs. Emmanuel Rivera had his couple moments as well this past homestand. So we're getting some sort of production, but not as much as you would like.
Right. I think the 2 players to watch, as Nick said earlier, is Jesus Sanchez and Brian De La Cruz. If Brian De La Cruz can continue that clutch factor he's been having, and if Jesus Sanchez get the hot streak rolling and, bring it over to Atlanta and continue to hit the ball and send it far again, that would be very, very nice. A player I'm actually looking for is Jazz. Jazz, he's been all right. He's been on and off, a little streaky here and there, but I really would like for him to get the bat rolling here in Atlanta. This is I believe it's a hitter-friendly, more oriented ballpark, so it would be nice to get Atlanta, Jazz back on track in Atlanta and carry that over to the next series. Another player that you guys mentioned is Tim Anderson, who came off a very, very good series in Chicago. Going to be interesting to see if that moves over here in this series against the Braves. So those are definitely my 4 players to watch, but mostly Jesus Sanchez. That's who I'm really eyeballing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's quickly talk about the pitching matchups here. The first one tonight, we already kind of went through that one. Let's talk a little bit about the Marlins starting pitcher, which is Ryan Weathers. Nick, you already spoke a little bit about him. I want to get your take on Ryan Weathers. Had a great start against the San Francisco Giants, struck out 10. Unfortunately, I believe he was going to be the first Marlins pitcher this season to go into the 7th inning. Couldn't do it, unfortunately, suffered from cramps. Nate, from San Francisco to Atlanta, the competition's a lot harder, as you could see from all that red in that lineup. What are you hoping to see from Ryan Weathers as he goes up against arguably the best team in baseball?
Just consistency, honestly. When he struggled, he's being definitely inconsistent, but especially against this Braves lineup, which features a ton of righties, you're going to need probably 3 of your pitches on, especially for a guy like Weathers. Can't miss over the plate. It's going to be a huge test for him because he looked great against the Giants lineup, but against Acuna and another bit righty, Austin Riley and Adam Duvall, who kills the Marlins every time they play against them. You got to really lock in all your pitches, and I'm cautiously optimistic about Weathers tonight.
Next pitcher for the Marlins is Trevor Rogers. Had a great start against the same San Francisco lineup. Only gave up 1 run, I believe. I was there for that game. Struck out about 5. John, what are you hoping to get out of Trevor from this start against, again, a really good Braves team? But remember last time he faced the Braves, he only gave up, I believe it was 2 runs, and it was at the start of that game. I'll look up the final line. But again, Trevor already faced this lineup once. How much differently do you think he's going to have to approach the Braves lineup?
I think it's the fact that they are in Atlanta. I think that's the big change, is that Trevor needs to really, I guess, work the longevity. I feel like that's the way to beat the Braves. You work the longevity, and you bring your hot stuff. I think he's going to probably bring a little bit of that, but pitching in Atlanta isn't easy. It's friendlier to the hitters than it is in Miami. So definitely trying to see if Rogers could probably take a bit between 5 to 6 innings for this start. It's going to be hard, but that's his test right there.
Yep, for sure. And then the final starters of TBA. Nick, there's obviously some guys like a Brian Hoeing who could probably start this game off for you. A couple relievers out there. What are you kind of looking into there? Obviously there's still that possibility. They brought in Kyle Tyler. He's on the major league roster. So he was going to be a starter for Jacksonville. Scratched from that start. What are some of the options you're looking at for that Wednesday game? Who is, the opposition is going to be Reynaldo Lopez.
Yeah, I think you'll have to kind of wait and see on it. I think it depends on these first 2 games go. If kind of Weathers and Rogers get blown up and we have to use a lot of the bullpen, we have to use Hoeing in a long-term situation, I think that could obviously change. We have to go to the minor leagues to grab someone and bring someone up for a start. But I think if Weathers and Rogers can do good, I could very well see Brian Hoeing going out there and starting the game. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, as long as the starting pitching doesn't get blown up right away. So I want to see how kind of Skip approaches it, really, just depending on how these 2 games go. I think that's just the biggest factor of, I think the most likely option would be Brian Hoeing. I think that's what Skip would envision and would probably want, but it's just going to see how these first 2 go.
Let's quickly talk about Chris Sale, and I believe the other one's going to be Max Fried in that second game. Not going to be easy for the Marlins. Actually, no, it's just Chris Sale who we have to talk about. We just spoke Chris Sale and Reynaldo Lopez. Nate, what are you looking to see from those Braves starters, or how can this Marlins offense attack these Braves starters?
Yeah, well, Chris Sale, the Marlins just saw him last week. Brian De La Cruz had that big bases clearing double off him. So just keeping that going against a guy like Sale, especially staying on that, his iconic slider, and especially in a hitter-friendly park like Truist. And then Fried, not Fried. Is Fried not pitching the series, you said?
I'm not sure. No, actually, it's not Chris Sale. It's Bryce Elder, Max Fried, Reynaldo Lopez. My bad.
Okay, well then I'll go to Lopez, I guess. Lopez, he's, I think, 18 innings and has like a 0.5 ERA. He's really doing good, but he is a righty. So guys like Jazz, who like Nick mentioned, Jazz loves hitting at Truist Park. He said he loves playing against the Braves. He's mentioned that a few times. So Jazz seeing someone like him, and then Arise, of course. But it could be worse, but hopefully get something going at Truist Park for the Marlins.
Nick, anything you want to touch on with Max Fried?
Yeah, I think Max Fried is a weird one. Hasn't had his last 3 games have been that good. Well, he had 2 good games, and then his 2 bad games, 1 good game was against the Marlins. So you can see how they approach that, because he hasn't been great this year. He hasn't been nearly what he usually is, but against the Marlins, he was fantastic. So you have to see how they approach him. Hopefully they can hit better off him. Someone you just recently saw this year, so should be a familiar face, should be used to his pitches. So hopefully that's a game where they can actually connect.
Yep. John, let's take a quick look at the Braves bullpen. Anything that stands out to you on that end?
So for the Braves bullpen, I think it's just lockdown stuff. That's what the Braves bullpen really is. So it's tough. If the Marlins want to attack the Braves, it's got to be through the starters. The bullpen, they look for the shutdown. They got Raisel Iglesias in that mix. So they're looking for those 3 outs at the very end when they're trying to win the game. So Marlins want to win these games. It can't be in the later innings. It's got to be early on, and it's got to be against the starters. This Braves bullpen is no joke.
Alrighty, for sure. Alrighty, we're gonna go into prediction time unless anyone else here has anything to note on the Braves. Nate, Nick, John, anything else on this Atlanta series that you guys are kind of taking notes of?
I think it's just going to be a tough one. It's a really, really good Braves team that's been hot. You have so many guys that are on fire recently. Like Ozuna's been so good. So it's going to be a really difficult challenge for the starting pitching. And it's going to say a lot when you have guys that the Marlins are waiting to come back. I really want to see someone I'm most excited is Josh Bell. I don't know why, but I feel like he's just that centerpiece in the Marlins lineup that can hit fourth and actually get something going. And then once we bring Berger back, I think Josh Bell, if we can get him going, if he can get something going in the series, it'd be a huge benefit in the Marlins just going throughout the whole season. But it's going to be difficult against a very, very good Braves hitting team, pitching team all around. They're one of the best teams in baseball, like you said. So should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Bell against the Braves, 238, 338, 411, 749 with 6 home runs, 27 RBIs. So definitely has a chance. And then, when you look at ballparks he's played at, definitely the one that should stand out is Truist. Yeah, I believe he may have also played at Turner Field. We'll see. But anyways, we're going to go into prediction time. Running a little, not low on time by any means, but still, I guess, when it comes to this, take your time with the prediction. You guys could go into it a little bit. All right, here we go.
This is prediction time.
Y'all ready? Alrighty, let me set this up. Prediction time. Alrighty, here we go. John Rodriguez, you are up.
I have the Braves winning this series 2 out of 3, and I have my MVP being Marcell Ozuna. I think he's going to continue to be hot. He's going to attack this Marlins team as he historically has done. And yeah, I got the Braves winning this series.
Alrighty, we're going to have to do this like this. Mr. Nick.
Yeah, so I think the Braves are just too much for the Marlins. I think Braves are going to take 2 out of 3, and I really think that I don't want it to happen, but I think Acuna's really going to actually figure it out this series. He's going to be able to perform against. Going to be facing 2 lefties for sure, but I think he's going to be able to really perform against this Marlins team. And I think this is the series that gets him back on track.
Alrighty, Nick, you are up. Nate, you're up.
Well, the Marlins just played the Braves really well back in Miami, but they're doing it at Truist Park this time. I believe they only took 1 game in Truist last year, and it was that crazy comeback in the 9th. I think the Braves are going to take 2 out of 3, and fish killer Travis d'Arnaud, very hot. Killed the Marlins in 22 feet. He's on a heater right now. I got him winning the MVP.
Alrighty, before mine, we have one more from Mr. Isaac Azut, who is reporting from his car.
Back in beautiful Miami, Florida, I got a Marlins Braves prediction. I got the Marlins upsetting the Atlanta Braves today, 2-1, and I got first baseman DH Josh Bell as the series MVP. Back to you, Kevin.
Alrighty, and last but not least, I'm actually going to go with Marlins taking 2 out of 3, and Nate said it best. Jazz loves playing in Truist. I'm going to go with Mr. Jazz Chisholm Jr. going out there and beating up the Braves, hopefully, what it is. So, alrighty, we're gonna wrap it up there. Little, time left, but giving you guys time to go grab your popcorn and sit down and get ready to watch what should be hopefully a division clash between 2 very good teams. Anything else from you guys before we wrap up? No? Alrighty.
I think it's just the fact that it's a test for the Marlins. It's just how they adjust against this Braves team that is completely different from the Braves team that they saw back in Miami. This is a team that's hot, really, really hot, as a matter of fact. So it's a test for them and the pitchers for the most part.
Yeah, look at it. They're going in. This is probably the hottest team they'll face, at least going into a series, because Chicago was the best offense going up against left-handed pitching. Thankfully, Miami was able to kind of split that one. And aside from that, San Francisco's been an underperforming team, but still good. So, yeah, definitely going to be a tough series, but we're going to wrap it up here from John, Nick, Nate, Isaac on the prediction, and myself. We'll see you guys on Friday. Peace out and go fish.